has life, so she feels like you will forget about her. People just fall away. They never.
And it does happen. People do fade away. People do go, and not that they forget, because now I'm on the other side, right? Life is moving fast out here.
Right.
You know, and sometimes it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I can answer a letter, and it's not purposeful. It's just literally, we were just talking about time management. It's like, it's 7 days, but in 24 hours out of 7 and each day.
Yeah.
But it's just like, sometimes I don't even feel like I get a 10th accomplished in them 7 days, you know? So it's not purposeful.
Right, but to her response is, I'm not calling anymore because I'm not going to chase anybody.
Yeah.
And so for them, their whole thing is, I'm not chasing anybody. I don't want to do that. If they know that I'm here, this is where I'm at. They still can't have any visits, you know, all those things. So, you know, they're feeling very secluded. And I know for her, a natural life sentence is a big thing to have to think about. Even though I believe in God, Brett believes in God, but when you're sitting in it and when you're sitting on that type of sentence, it's a totally different feeling, and I would never know what that's like.
Right.
So I don't want her to think that I forgot about her. I want her to know that everything that I'm doing is for people like her.
Right. It's just really hard to, like, every single day when I fight against life without parole, I ask people, like, can you imagine what it would be like to wake up every single day knowing that as of right now, this is the place you will die. The way it is right now. And yes, you can have hope that it will change. You can have hope that it will. But there's always that piece in the back of your mind that says, yeah, but people who've come before me have died here.
Right.
And as of right now, the way society has judged me is that I deserve to die here. This is my grave. I wake up every day in my own cement tomb. And so I say to people who are serving life without parole that their resilience that they live every single day is beyond, I believe, my own resilience. And so I challenge people all the time to think about, could you face that every single day with just the hope that maybe one day that's going to change?
And I think the crazy thing for me is, you know, it almost felt like even being in the prison system, even serving time, doing my own sentence, the most time I've gotten is 5 years, is saying something to somebody like Jasmin, who had, 12 to 15?
Yep.
So if I came in, and I know Jasmin, because I've known Jasmin since Chickadees, and so that was way back when. But if I came and sat down to sit with Jasmin, and we're just talking about normal life, and I just happen to say, I can't wait to get out of here, her response in her head is like, well, you know, geez, she's complaining, and here I am sitting here with a 12 to 15 year sentence. Now, for Jasmin to say that to a lifer, they're basically saying she has 5 minutes in jail compared to their life sentence in jail.
Yeah.
So it is very, very, it's a lot of tension there. There's a lot of tension when you deal with people who you do become friendly with because they have natural life, but they're standoffish, but you say, oh, I can't wait to go home, or yeah, my family's waiting for me to come home. Well, that's not happening for us. There's none of that is happening for us right now, because although we have an appeal, and that appeal is not for certain, your out date is for certain.
Right.
Either you're going to leave, you're going to get good time and leave, or you're going to leave on parole, but eventually you'll leave. Then they become bitter, and I think Britt's at that point where she has definitely become bitter. It was definitely hard to get close to her. We really got really close at the end of my stay at Framingham this time, me going to BU, but I think that it's going to take a lot more for her. I think it's really sad, because if she does get out, you don't trust anybody. You don't trust your environment. You don't trust where you lay your head. You don't trust opening up the refrigerator and closing it, that it's going to be there tomorrow. You don't trust any of those things because of everything that you've gone through before you were incarcerated, during your incarceration. She lost her mother and everything. Angie Jefferson, natural life. She lost her mother, her sister, you know, it's a lot. And now you can't even go to a funeral if you have natural life. Robin, prime example, even though her mom was out of state, it doesn't matter if she was here, she still wouldn't be able to go.
Yeah. I think of, like,
thanks to Patrick Duvall. Thank you, Patrick Duvall.
What I was thinking while you were talking is that I had my own process, because I faced a natural life sentence, and it got pled down, and I ended up with the 12 to 15. But I went through my own process where I stopped getting close to people, because that hurt and that pain of seeing somebody and being with somebody every single day, and then them being gone and not getting a letter, the phone not being picked up or anything like that. It is hard, and you do have to put up a wall. you know, and when it was my time to go, women that I did 12 years with had that wall up, you know, and it was sad and it was hard, but I understood because I did the same thing, you know, and I think the only thing that I can do is do my best and remain in contact with them, and with Britt especially because we were roommates and I loved her. She's so funny. She still is funny in her letters, but it's just try to be consistent, right? Even though I know now that life is moving fast, it's still being consistent, you know, and just being supportive. Like when Robin's mom died, you know, that was, I know it was hard for her.
Absolutely, and people saying she's still having some trying times here. It's definitely difficult when you're doing natural life and the only person that really supported you financially, mentally, and emotionally is gone. Now you have to think to yourself, well, how am I going to survive here? The food is disgusting. You know, the mental health is few and far between unless you get a good mental health worker. People come and go, and unfortunately for now, your F number is consistent with the natural life sentence. So you don't, there's nothing else for you to do but just live for each day and try to find something to hold on and attach yourself to.
Right, and what I was thinking about too, like that ties so beautifully into what Jasmin is saying about like when she was facing a natural life. Like, what I always come back to around this idea of accountability. So if our justice system is actually about accountability, what we're all talking about is accountability as just time passing. Like, okay, so we have these traumas, we have these experiences, somebody commits an act of violence out of trauma or whatnot, and they've harmed the community. Okay, our idea in America of accountability is literally just watching our clock. Like, and so what for? So if that's our idea of accountability, right? So people continue to say things like, well, you shouldn't have done what you did. Like, you're upset you can't go to your mother's funeral, you shouldn't have done what you did. Like, whatever. Without really looking at that attitude and asking ourselves, like, or realizing or just acknowledging, that's a very primitive response to a harm that is done. And we are, like, we live in the most amazing society in the world by many measures, by many standards. And so to just think that that's as good as it gets, that our sense of accountability and justice is just that, like,
Discipline versus punishment.
That's
so,
it,
yeah.
you know? There's no way that this person can repair harms in our community, give back, grow, heal, and become a different person. Like, really? No, there's not, you know? And when the rest of the world around us proves that those things are all possible. So, like, I'm just always struck by that's justice. I don't think that's as good as it gets. I know that that's not as good as it gets. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And accountability and healing are commingled. So when I see survivors come together with people who have committed acts of harm, to watch the healing in that space is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. And it's so powerful and it's life-changing. And to me, having to sit across from the person that you harmed and have a real deep conversation, that feels way more like justice than having to figure out, like, how do I get out of this natural life sentence?
I agree with you. I think that sometimes the way to hold a person accountable is to face whatever it is that had you in the position to begin with. And I think a lot of times we're not allowed to do that. Just like if you ever notice in courts, you do have some judges that be kind enough to allow you to speak. They'll say good morning to you, good afternoon, whatever the case is, and then they'll ask you questions, they'll ask you if there's anything, they'll allow you to speak, but for the most part, you have no voice. Once you step into the justice system, I've been in the justice system since I was 5, started with DCF, DSS, whatever it was back then, till now. I think that there's never been a time that I've been allowed to use my voice, unless it was in anger, and then when that happened, there was consequences for that. There was never a time where I was allowed to say how I felt, what trauma that happened to me in the past has affected me now. Never. Judges usually don't give you that type of, oh, we want to hear from her. So they never get to know you. They only know what's on paper about you. and that's their way. So it's discipline versus punishment, and I believe that society is not, they're not on the spectrum. They're on this end. They're on, I want to punish you. This is not discipline, because discipline is something that you truly learn from. You grow from it. If you're given the right opportunity, you can grow from it. But punishment is, this person did me wrong, I'm pissed off, nothing, I can't forgive them, just let's throw them away. And then when they get out, they'll have this stigma attached to them that they could never change. They're convicted felons, they can never do anything different. And then this revolving door starts, because people start to give up. People start not to care anymore. And that's the way these women are. Annette Stewart's a prime example. I know, she says, you know what, I always say this, I would never give her the opportunity to get out, and people find that hard to believe coming from somebody like me, because I believe that everyone should have the right. I believe that she.
And they have 2 women.
Which PREA, by the way, is the Prison Rape Elimination Act.
Right.
Okay.
So this is how they're gonna eliminate rape in prison. 2 women conversing. Right. One is just coming in, and she was like, "Do you want some chips?"
And the way they did it was so creepy and
It
perverted
was.
in the first place, but that was what they were trying to give off, that's what we do.
That's what we do. Like, so everybody like, don't eat the chips. Don't take the chips.
Is the idea that you owe her something?
Like, you
Yeah,
owe her.
yeah.
Yes. So
Now
then
she's your
situation.
girlfriend, because
Yes.
now if you take a chip from her, and obviously you don't have any chip for yourself, so now you are her girlfriend. She owes you for $1. I just
Yes.
the things that I know there's times where I have packed a whole winter coat in the summertime.
Oh my god.
Because I know somebody came in and I know that they're hungry, and I don't care. I'm passing by captains because for some reason they had respect for me, because they felt that I was honest. No, I was manipulating you. You're right. I want you to let me give this to her, so I'm letting you know that, okay, you got this. If I tell you I have this, then you're going to let me give it to her, because now you feel powerful. You feel like you're making the decision. No, I was going to either you was going to let me give it to her openly, or I was going to give it to her privately. Take your pick. I was gonna stuff my pants and sound like crunchy cheese doodle. Yes, that was what was gonna happen. It was, please, you see me, I'll be going to church, Bible here, got a whole bag of cheese doodles in here, and I'm this is me and her, girl, you would need to come up and get this stuff out of here, because I cannot.
But so we're obsessed in these systems with preventing every single little thing and making every single thing standardized, and yet as human beings we are so complicated, we have so many needs, and you know what, it ain't that serious. So like, for instance, I worked in a forensic inpatient unit, and I'll never forget this story. Young kid, psychotic, about 20, totally no family, no connections or whatever. He's cycling in and out of the inpatient unit over and over and over. Every time we had a group at like 2 in the afternoon, and it was mandatory that he had to go to the group, he would be irritable, angry, not able to sit still, and every once in a while he would bust out with some violence. He would throw a table, do whatever. I go and I talk to the kid and I'm like, what is the deal? Turns out, oh, big surprise, he's 20 and he's hungry. He's a male, he has a high metabolism.
He was angry.
He's hangry, no joke. So I go to the treatment team and I say, this kid at 2 o'clock, he needs a snack. Well, we can't do that because then every other person in the unit is gonna need a snack. And I'm like, he's 20, he's thin, he definitely has a high metabolism, and he sits in my group at 2 o'clock and can't focus, is totally in pain, and hits somebody every once in a while. And you're telling me that I can't get a yogurt for that guy? Because somebody else will then want one? Because guess what? If then someone else wants the yogurt, I say we give them the yogurt. So what is the obsession? Like, it ain't that serious. It's a yogurt.
You can't eat yogurt in jail, girl.
But we have this obsession with this like standardized process. We have this obsession with preventing the worst case scenario, and yet at the same time, in our own lives, we constantly ask everyone around us to understand that we're complicated. So then why on earth would we build systems that are so simplistic and standardized? If in our every single day life, like when we wake up, if we're in a bad mood, we expect the people around us to adjust.
I think the system would have rather me go back in and out of jail because they're like, oh, this broad. Because before I left Framingham, I was like writing stuff. I'm sending this to the superintendent. I worked at culinary, and we was throwing away a lot of food. And I was like, I'm sick of this. Either I'm gonna start taking it and giving it to the inmates, and I do not care. I'm rapping. What if I rap from the hole? If I rap, I'm gonna rap. Someone's gonna eat this cheeseburger because we're not gonna keep throwing all this stuff. We had really good food in culinary. We were giving it to the officers.
Yeah.
Right. So I wrote a whole proposal. And at first I was going to have everybody sign it, but then it was like, oh, you're citing them right. And I was like, oh, let me leave this alone. But I'm going to use some big words for your ass. I got this. I wrote to the superintendent. She called me over during happy hour. She was like, nice proposal. She's like, but it's not happening. I'm like, so you're going to tell me that we could throw away food, but we can't. The people who are not getting D reports, who are lifers, who at this point we don't know if they'll ever have the opportunity to get out and have normal food. No, society wouldn't like that. Society already sentenced them to die here. How much more do they want? Like, they can't have a chili dog? They can't have a cheeseburger? Oh, so basically, this is punishment. You want them to eat shit that looks like dog food. That's basically what you're telling me. They can't have real meat. They can't have any of those things. They can't have salad. They can't have anything healthy. That's what you're telling me. She's like, well, it was a nice proposal. Nice try, but no, we can't do it. But we can throw all the shit in the garbage, and there's people that are starving. That's how we're doing this? Oh, okay, I see. Well, I said, thank you. When Fox 25 News, because I was dead serious, I wrote to them and told them about the food. I said, when Fox 25 News is camped outside here, y'all know I sent them. And I'm telling you, I sent them. Y'all play too much. The system is designed because they want to dehumanize us so much that when we get out, the only thing we can do is go back because we don't know anything else about society. We feel bad about ourselves. We don't know how to cope. We can't get good jobs. Our kids are not talking to us anymore because they're mad because we went back in for the 5th, 6th, 7th time after we promised them that we wouldn't. We have nothing to look forward to. And then we come out to a system that says, we can't hire you because you still suck. Your record says you suck. Your kids are like, we're not dealing with you. Everything is working against you. Nothing is for you.
Right. And we're talking about a large amount of people here. And I think that's the other, there are many spaces in America that the reason that they don't have to think about incarceration is because that has not been a part of their life, and incarcerated people are invisible to those particular circles. But if we look at the numbers, we're talking 2.3 million people incarcerated, and everyone who loves those people or is in contact with those people is also locked up with them in some way. So when we now have reached a point of reckoning in the United States where 50%, almost 50% of Americans have a loved one who's formerly or currently incarcerated. 1 in 4 has had a parent incarcerated. 1 in 6 has had a sibling incarcerated, or I believe it might be 1 in 6 has had a significant other / co-parent incarcerated. When we start to look at those numbers, it's no longer their problem anymore. Well, that's that group's problem. They shouldn't have done what they did. We're looking at, we want people to be independent. We want them to not live on a system. We want them to be, contribute to America's society. We want people to be rehabilitated.
Right.
But we have taken entire generations and entire communities and have forced them to reckon with the impact of mass incarceration. The numbers are getting so large that it is no longer feasible for this country to just continue to other that and keep that problem invisible. At some point when people say, I never thought that I would end up here, they can now actually really look around and be like, I'm in a huge amount of company. I have a lot of people in this situation. And this is why we're talking now, right? Because with those types of numbers, when you're in the grocery store, when you're at a restaurant, when you're at a cafe, when you're at work, by the numbers, you should be hearing people around you say, well, my daughter who's incarcerated or my husband who's incarcerated,
right.
Because with those types of numbers, the reality is like that's actually what we're looking at. But the fact that there's silence is, an indication of our oppression.
I think that.
Should we take a break?
Yeah.
We could.